Hi, welcome and grüezi to Governance Unplugged, the podcast where we explore the real stories, insights and challenges behind internal audit, risk and governance. I'm your host, Thomas Michel, joining you from Switzerland with 25 years of experience in senior positions in internal audit risk management and controls. Today's episode takes us into the heart of leadership under pressure when the world around you feels uncertain and every decision seems to matter more than ever. The title of today's episode is Courage in the Shadows, How Audit Executives Navigate Through Dark Times. To guide us through this important and far too rarely discussed topic, I'm joined by a highly experienced voice in the world of internal audit and governance, known for his calm leadership, ethical compass and strategic mindset. But before we begin, a quick note. Given the sensitivity of today's topic, we decided to keep our guest's real name anonymous. For this conversation, we will refer to him as Michael, and we have also adjusted the pitch of his voice to ensure it cannot be tracked back to him. Michael is an experienced audit executive with more than 2 decades of leadership across diverse industry and regions. He has guided audit teams through periods of transformation, disruption, and rapid growth, always grounded in a strong commitment to ethics, courage, and humanity. His seasoned experience spanning complex global organization, multicultural environments, and high-stake governance challenges, giving him a unique, thoughtful perspective on today's conversation. Michael, it's a real pleasure to have you on Governance Unplugged.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. I'm really delighted to be part of this brilliant initiative of yours, the podcast. It's really going to be interesting, and I'm particularly looking forward for sharing some thoughts and some experience that I've made over the years, and I believe some of them are going to surprise you a little bit, but I'm very excited about your questions as well, and let's go ahead. So
let's dive into today's topic: courage, leadership, and the role of internal audit when lights get dim. Michael, you have led through some truly challenging times, from restructuring to crisis. Can you share an example of a moment or many moments when you faced major challenges throughout your internal audit career? What were your and also the team's very first steps, and how did you bring stability and direction to them as a team?
Thank you, Thomas. Well, that's certainly quite a beefy question you're asking me there.
You're getting right into it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we have to, one thing first, we have to see a crisis. About a crisis can have very different layers. So there can be internal crisis, external crisis. Not everybody, like for me, a crisis is different than for you a crisis is generally. But what I would like to give you now, I would like to give you like a widespread number of examples of different kind of situation that some people might define as a crisis. Others would say it's their daily business. Others would say I wouldn't even think about it, that it is possible. So I was once working for a company, and I did an audit in another part of the world. And it was, at that time, was a lot of documentation, real paperwork. And I found documentation about a tax fraud that was going on. And we signed papers from one of the CFOs. Mm-hmm. So I collected all the documents when I was on site. It was all discussed and agreed. I came back to the head office. I made some digital copies of that to keep it on my computer. And then I had a meeting with the CEO. So I went with the CEO and I explained him all the story, and I showed him the documents that I had. And he had a very strange reaction. He was not really much into it. He didn't ask me any question about it. And at the end he said, oh yeah, let me have a thought about it. And yeah, it's good that you found it. That's okay. Let's have a catch up one of the other days when I really...
Interesting.
Yeah, thought about it. The next day, so I went back to my office. I put the documents in that I had in hard copy with me. I put them in the cabinet. I locked the cabinet, took the key with me. I get it every day. Next morning, I came to the office, and nothing strange. But then when I unlocked my cabinet to get my stuff out for the day, I realized that the documents are missing.
Wow!
So that was it has been disappeared overnight mysteriously with the only key that I had, I thought. But I mean, there are not that many keys in an office, so. It somehow found its way out of there. I mean, at the end, I had a digital copy still. So what I ended up doing then,
So just to be clear, that the physical evidence documentation has been gone overnight?
Yes.
Taken out of your personal closed cabinet?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So, and I mean, you don't want to make assumption who did it, but I mean, there was only one person the head obviously knew, and the other person were like 10,000 kilometers away. So I'm not sure that someone managed overnight to fly in and break the cabinet to get the step out. And I also don't think that the cleaning lady opened it up and took the documents out. So, or cleaning man took the documents out. Then because the story doesn't end there, so then I had a conversation with the chairman of the audit committee. And I told him, look, that's the scenario, that is what happened. So the document disappeared. I still have a digital copy. That is what we're talking about. It was bribing of the tax officer in one of the countries. I've signed documents from the financial and the division person who signed both these documents, and one of the email correspondents, all of them knew about it, but we bribed the tax officers. So I cannot close my eyes about that. So I have to report it. So I just want to let you know. So what is your point of view? I asked the chairman, and he said, look, I mean, it's great that you found it, and you're absolutely right from an ethical standpoint of view, but you got to realize one thing. If you raise that, your days in the companies will be counted. So I will not be able to protect you much then, and it's your decision. That was coming from the chairman, which kind of shocked me after, because you would imagine that a chairman of the audit committee and any audit committee should be so professional, should appreciate that, and should really say, no, we got to raise that, we got to flag that. It was a different story. So I ended up raising it in the next audit committee. I went back and I thought, okay, well, what are you going to do now? But at the end, you see, and you got to be the change that you want to happen. So you got to be courageous. And I went back and raised that point in the next audit committee meeting. And I think it took them, after that, I was ultimately the pandemic managed to give them a reason to make a headcount cut. Of 10,000 people, one was cut. And interestingly, that was the head of internal audit.
So you had to leave the organization?
Yeah.
Wow.
Ultimately, which, frankly speaking, was good, because in such an unethical situation, what do you want to do? I mean, you know that your function is not appreciated. You're just basically like, it's nice to have function. You're an auditor. Yeah, we have an auditor, but the auditor, you're not allowed to do really something. And if you find stuff like that and it's put under the carpet, that cannot be. You can't tolerate that.
Wow, that's a really, really strong story. And thank you so much for sharing, Mike. Please go ahead.
Yeah, well, you think that would be the toughest one, but there's also the situation where you have physical threats, where you really it gets a bit dangerous, to be perfectly honest. So there was actually two scenarios I can think of, or not scenarios, two situations that I was facing. And one was was a fraud investigation, or an audit that ended up in a fraud investigation. I found out that one of the procurement manager ended up taking bribes from suppliers. And it was hard evidence, and we had the numbers. We knew exactly what he took. So we got all the documents straight. Everything was fine. And at the end, there was a meeting with that person. It was very open. Look, that's the situation. We know there was a fund transfer. We have the evidence. We got some whistleblowers. We got all that we need. So what is your point of view on that one? Then the person just looked at me and basically looked at me and just said, a bullet in this country costs $20.
No way.
So basically, it was a real direct threat of life-threatening situation.
Wow.
So, and you could see in the person's eye, I mean, it's in one part of the world where really it was meaningful, what was behind there.
Wow. How did you handle that situation?
What we ended up doing is like really packing our stuff, go straight to the airport and leave the country.
Yeah.
From that point, just because, first safety. that was the most important. That was all lessons learned afterwards. When there was similar situational parts where it went like that, we went with security companies.
But the point was raised to the board?
The point was raised to the board, of course. But we went back to the Home Office. We finalized it from the Home Office. The person at the end was let go. There was a criminal case launched against this person, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's how it ended up. At the end, it was still okay because nothing happened. It was just a threat. But there was another scenario where some bullets were actually fired. So we were in a country, and there was this situation. It was similar. It was a fraud investigation. And at the end, I did have a bodyguard at that time with me. And it was good that one person was with there, because there were some shots fired then, and the person basically saved her life because he was driving a car and he quickly escaped from that one.
Mm-hmm.
It was also, I mean, I don't want to go too much into details about that, really. It was about fraud investigation. It was trading. It was big numbers that were misappropriated. And it was in a country where it's apparently rather easy to get some previous soldiers to do some stupid stuff like that.
Wow, my mouth is wide open. I'm speechless.
Yeah.
Solutions were seen. Appreciate the information that you were able to report.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, except in the one case where I was let go after a while, but I mean, now of course they appreciate it because it was really
okay. Yeah.
What you would consider now value adding, because you found money was misappropriated big times, and it was really appreciated that. But it's something that grows you and makes you realize. I mean, there's a lot going on. That's what you cannot just assume sitting at home in the home office or in the office or wherever you're sitting that everything is fine. I mean, there are challenges out there.
Wow.
And there are challenges out there. But you see, that's a few of the maybe more dramatic examples of a crisis, or what other people might consider as a crisis.
Wow, I have to say I never heard anything like this before. And an auditor being threatened with bullets or even shots being fired, that's truly astonishing, to say the least. But thank you, Michael, for sharing this so openly. And perhaps this is an important reminder for some of our listeners. When you travel to certain parts of the world, preparation is absolutely essential. If there is even the slightest indicator that a situation could escalate or become unsafe, make sure you are properly protected. Don't travel or conduct fieldwork alone. Ensure someone is with you and take the right precautions before stepping into environments where people may feel personally threatened. Safety must always come first in our profession.
Exactly. I mean, and that's something. I mean, we got to be open about that. I mean, when we're planning the audits, you know which country we're going, or what's going to be audited. Wisely choose the audit team. Choose not the most junior team. Choose the experienced team, and also, apologies for mentioning, also consider gender.
Mm-hmm.
So it is just like what it is, unfortunately, still in some parts of the world. So you have to consider that, because personal health and safety is the most important.
Absolutely.
So that's the other thing. I mean, there was another scenario which was in a country. So we were coming back to the hotel, and at the end there was two gentlemen standing there and asking, "Look, we know you're from Switzerland. Either you pay us that money, or you will not be able to leave the country." So at the end we had a little fund that we had to pay the money. So. It was very clear: if you don't pay the money, we will not get out of the country.
Wow! But that was independent of the work you were doing.
Yeah, it was independent. It was from a travel perspective. So, but it shows you. I mean, the world is. I mean, it can happen to you everywhere. Mm-hmm. But there are also other things. Maybe let's go away from these extreme examples.
Mm-hmm.
And more. You might also find yourself in a crisis like when you work and the company is sold. I mean, that can happen to you as well. And then when the company is sold, some of them may be on the side where you say, okay, you're more on the merger side than rather be on the side that's being bought. So when you're being bought, then you're getting very clear at the beginning the message, I'm telling all the team, we will not take you over. You will lose your job. Once this is all approved by the authorities, then you will lose your job. So that could also be considered as a crisis. So what are you going to do then? You have an audit plan. Are you going to execute the audit plan? Are you just going to lean back and do nothing? Or what are you going to do? So at the end, you're still there to create the value for the company, and you are still the auditor. So you got to be flexible, adopt the plan, and see what kind of actions are now important for the company. For example, taking care that performance evaluation are not just ridiculously boosted to the highest just to give the employee a decent payout. We can understand the situation, but at the end we have to be professional and objective and say, is it really fairly done? And keeping your team motivated. That's another mode of a kind of crisis you can think of.
Yeah.
Because you have to really re-identify yourself. On the other hand, there's also, if your company is facing major quality issues, like really big time quality issues, and it's a company threatening situation where you say the company could go bust for that one. So and then the major litigation, that could also be it's more on a company crisis. So how are you going to handle that? So you have to take your step back, look from the audit function. You have a plan, okay, but don't stick you to your plan. Be agile, be flexible. Really, okay, what can we do to support it? And that's something you got to be open, and you also have the conversation with the management. That's why you need to have a good relationship with the management to really have an open conversation that you are the trusted advisor. It's not only a phrase that's used nowadays, like okay, it's cool to call ourselves trusted advisor. You really have to be at really management need to understand that, and then you can adjust it.
Michael, let me ask you about something we often talk about in our profession, the idea of being a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
It's a term we all like to use, but how do you actually become one? And in your view, who are you a trusted advisor to? Senior management, the board, the organization as a whole? Or is it ultimately a balance of all three of them?
I would say you have to be at a cross organization. That's the ideal, because you cannot just say, I mean, there are some of our colleagues who just say, I'm only working on the board level. I'm not going to the lower level. Fine. I mean, that can be your approach. From my point, that's not the approach I'm following, because I'm there to support the whole company and the stakeholder, and even from the entry level employee to up to the board level. And you got to be the advisor for them. So you got to be there and say, look, guys, I might not know the answer, but I'm there to help you. So if you know something, tell me, because at the end, the emotional aspect, and really don't underestimate it. There's a lot of knowledge in the company. Some of them might not know it's a risk, but it is a risk once you're looking with your professional eyes on there. And as for the trusted advisor role per se, I would say it's, I have to understand that you are really someone who can create a value-adding opinion, and a value-adding really something where you say, okay, you can be a sparring partner, you're on the same level, you've seen enough, you understand enough, and you can really challenge concepts and really bring what sometimes it's needed. And even if sometimes in a board discussion they just want your confirmation that something is right, that's also part of the game. So you really have to be accepted on that level. It's a journey, frankly speaking. It's nothing that happens overnight. I mean,
it really comes down to continuous learning, doesn't it?
Yes.
You need to understand the organization in all its complexity, the business model, the product, and the culture of the organization if you want to create real value. Only then you can engage meaningfully with people at every level of the company and truly understand what they do and what they try to achieve.
Yeah. It's a lot about emotional intelligence. You really need to be able to fine-tune and adapt your communication style. Whether you're talking on a board level, you talk different than to an apprentice, for example, who's quite new in the company. You have to talk differently. If you talk vice versa in the same articulation, on the one way you would lose the board would think, what kind of gentleman is that I'm talking to? On the other one, he would say he would not talk to you anymore because he doesn't understand what you're talking about. So you really have to be able to adopt. You need to be flexible. And from my point of view, it's challenging when you're an introverted, when you don't like talking to people. It's challenging and building up the relationship. You can still be a good auditor, but you can be technically very strong. But if you don't know how to communicate your technical knowledge to the people, it will not make your life easy.
So if I understand you correctly, the technical side of the audit, the analysis and the actual audit work itself is really only one part of the role.
Mm-hmm.
Equally important are your communication skills and the emotional intelligence you mentioned.
Absolutely.
Those elements are essential to truly being effective and successful in our profession.
Absolutely. From my point of view, I mean, some people might think differently. I mean, maybe there's some areas where you would say the technical expertise is a bit more important than the communication aspect. That might well be. I mean, I'm just talking about the industries and businesses that I work for. I mean, I've seen a lot of industries, but not all industries. And I believe there are some where technical is a bit more important. Yet still, you have to be able to also report. If you write a report, it needs to be down to the point. You don't commit fluffy words around it and no one's interested in it. You need to find the right words, precise, in a way that people understand it.
Correct.
Oh, okay. I mean, as for communication, I can also give you another example. What else you have to trust advisor, but you have to be careful that you not abuse as a tool. So I had a situation where the executive management came to me. They wanted to get rid of the legal counsel. They didn't like him anymore for whatever reason. And I was giving the very clear message, find something, we want to fire him. So what are you going to do then? I mean, they give you clear message. We want him to fire, go out, do something. You got to be a step back. You just say, okay, that's the message. I forget about this message. I remain objective. I remain independent. I just doing my job. I'm just going to take a look at it. I'm putting it in audit, put its function in audit, and really going to do then what I have to do. And if something comes out, that's the reason. Okay, fair enough. But if there's nothing, don't just artificially generate something, create something. I mean, at the end, in that situation, it's unfortunately, this gentleman was really, he didn't make it too complicated to fire points to let him go.
Okay.
That also helps. And then, and lastly, as for the communication skills, you got to be, also pay attention to some other aspect. You might have some of your team member rather junior.
Mm-hmm.
So they're coming in there and of course they're faced and confronted with a lot of information. You as an auditor, you're able to see everything. And you have to be able to see everything. So I had a situation where a junior member was tasked with reviewing payroll. Of course, at that you see the salaries. Well, you should treat that confidentially. What this person did then, after the audit was complete, short time afterwards, went to HR and wanted to renegotiate the salary with reference. Yeah, I saw that this person is earning so much and so much, but I only earn so much. I would like to have a raise. And I was contacted then by the HR department and I said, okay, thanks for informing me. I will take care of that. Well, what are you going to, you have to have the conversation with this person and really make them understand that is not ethical behavior. We can't do this as an auditor. You have to treat it confidentially. You have to blind out, and you need to have your Teflon suit and say, okay, that is what they negotiated well. It's their salary, fair enough. But it's not like you're telling them. You really need to have an open conversation. Look, this is how that went. Do you think that's okay? What is important as an auditor? And when they come to the conclusion, then you can say, and now look, what you did there. Do you think it's okay? And the person said, no, and I apologize for that. That's the way how I handle the situation. There are others who might just give a warning letter and then immediately. That's not my style, frankly speaking, because it's a junior person. You just started the career and they have to learn. All of us have to, we all make the wrong steps some occasionally, but you got to learn from that one. You got to give them a chance.
I had a similar example in my past. It was not me, but one of my managers when they did the payroll audit, and it was in the old days when we still did photocopies on the machine. He forgot the payroll list on the photocopy machine, and the next day it was found by someone in the organization. That was not good at all.
That's not good. That's not good. That's nowadays when you send the email to the wrong person, like you have a Thomas, but a Thomas with a different surname, and then you end up sending the email to the wrong person. That might happen as well, yeah.
Michael, I must admit, that's quite alarming what you're sharing, and it brings back also to me some of my own memories from the past. Maybe not the ones with the bullets, but some of the others. When you look back, Michael, what personal qualities do you think made the biggest difference in navigating these moments for you and also the team?
Well, the first thing I can think of is calmness. You got to stay calm. Don't get in crisis mode. Don't get in panic mode. Just be an anchor point. Just really, okay, take a step back, look at it from the outside, and don't overreact. Don't move too fast. The other thing is you got to keep your objectivity. Look at the stuff from outside and keep your professionalism.
One question, you say professionalism. Can you please elaborate a little bit of what exactly you mean with professionalism in terms of internal audit?
Yeah, it's like the trusted advisor. It's a phrase that's used very nicely, very often used by different people. So for me, it's, as I said, it's only my personal point of view, obviously. So for me, professionalism is you really keep fact-driven. Keep the emotions out, keep the facts, stick to the facts. Do not make assumptions. You really need to be rock solid in what you're communicating. And I burned myself also in the past. As I said, everybody needs to make their experience. So I burned myself as well in the past when I didn't do my homework 100%. And that's when I say, okay, you gotta stay professional. On the other hand, it's also apply your lessons learned. Look at that. Don't think that you're the mastermind behind everything. At the end, you're just one part of the chain, one link of the chain. So you gotta stick to it and realize how can you be the most strong link in there, and how can you create what you have to create. So that's for me basically professionalism. And next, I would say curiosity and diligence. This diligence goes a bit more into the facts. Of course, you got to do your homework. You got to really do in detail. And for curiosity, you just ask the right question. You got to. The longer you work, the more you get a feeling whether an area is a risk or it's not a risk. So you don't stick to a plan. Just say, okay, I have to audit accounts payable. You go there, you look at accounts payable, you start looking at it, you realize it's a rock solid process. Everything is perfect. And then look at what you have to look, then shorten it. If you see another area, we say, okay, that is much more, it looks a bit more funny than the other one. Don't be afraid to add the plan, to adjust the plan. don't stick to a scope that you prepared in the office. When you're on site, you see something, the world's completely different.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So, yeah. And at the end, courageous. You got to get the courage to make decisions.
Probably the most important. I often say that every internal auditor at least once in their career faces that moment where you have to take a decision to be true to yourself and to your values of independence and integrity. The moment where you have to choose to stand up or to be quiet. It's a defining point that truly tests your quality as a head of internal audit, and sooner or later, all of us in our profession will encounter that moment.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. I mean, I just had, actually, after our podcast, I have a call with the CEO because I have an audit issue where he approved something that he should have not approved. I mean, there are probably some of our colleagues who will say, okay, I've seen it. I don't want to put it in a report. I have a separate conversation with the CEO, but I will not put it in there.
Interesting. And that might sound familiar to quite some of our listeners. So, Michael, now a quite challenging question. The Chief Audit Executive's role is often described as sitting in the hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
The Chief Audit Executive is accountable to the board. He is trusted by management and caught right in the middle when tensions rise. How do you balance assurance and support without losing independence or trust?
But it's a very fine line, Thomas. It's a very fine line that you have to walk there every day, basically. And it goes a bit back. I mean, you have to be, we're coming back to the trusted advisor and the relationship building. You need to build the relationship across the business. So the people really need to understand, look, this is a guy I can talk with, and this is a guy who's going to help me. And it's not easy, in particular for a junior person. I mean, if you think back at the beginning of our career, we came back from university, we went in there, we were thinking we were with our little suits, we came in there and said, okay, we're going to ruin the world. I mean, but at the end, the stuff that we recommended at that time, if you look at it nowadays, you would think, oh, Jesus Christ, what did I do there? It's...
I also recall these times.
Yeah. But you see on the other end, and it's still out there. It's still the more bully style auditor, the traditional ones, where you would think, okay, I'm internal audit, you have to talk to me. That's not how that's going to work. You will not be a successful auditor. You might be successful in finding points, but you will not be long-term adding value. You will not be long-term successful. So you got to really, really understand that you need to, I have to mention again the trusted advisor. I mean, I can give you an example. I had a previous colleague. He wrote an audit issue because the flags that were hanging at the facility were too dirty for him. And he gave them a critical audit finding. So do you create trust with that when you raise audit findings like that? Your flags are too dirty? Yeah, I mean, it's... Okay. Yeah, this is the kind of thing you really have to... Don't do stupid stuff like that. I mean, it might bother you personally, but you have to realize what kind of assurance do you provide when the company flags are clean. And
I couldn't agree more.
But again, we're coming also back to the added value. And how do you manage to create the added value? It's just, you have to understand it. So you work in the fine line between assurance, what's business objectives, and how you structure your own work to really bring the most out of what you can do. So you have to realize it's a company where we work together. You are part of it. You're not excluded. You might have an indirect line, a direct line to the board. Fine, fair enough, but you are still part of the company. So you can't exclude yourself from decisions. So you really need to understand, well, how can you create the value? You know, that's and again, I can just go back to walk in the fine line and to keep the relationship. It's, if you're an introverted person, it is challenging at times. It will be more challenging for you to build the relationship.
I really like the part that you mentioned, that always remember that you are part of the organization. So on one side, it challenges your independence within an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, I think it creates quite some opportunities for you to create value, to evolve as a trusted business partner within your organization. As you mentioned it just before, it takes time. And most important, you need to understand in the depths your organization, the DNA, the culture, your products, how things work, how you communicate, what's the language of the organization in order to build that trust and become a trusted partner. So do you think that the balance comes more from a technical expertise or from emotional intelligence within the organization?
Well, I would say it is a balance. So you need to have a balance. You need to have the technical expert because you need to be able to have a conversation on the same level. And you need to be able to understand it. If you have lacking technical knowledge, it will be tough for you. I mean, yet nowadays with AI and so on, you can still get a brief understanding of most of it, but you need to be able, and people need to understand, okay, he knows what he's talking about. If you're just talking about something and you have no clue, basically, your opposite will figure it out very quickly, and then you will not be... I mean, you will not be hurt. That's what it is. But that's a technical. So we need to have our tool set. That's a no-brainer. But then for me, it's really like to be really successful, you must have sophisticated emotional intelligence. Where you need to be you need to be able to read, understand, and you need to be able to read your opposite. The person need to be able to understand the body language. You need to be able to adopt your communication style. And otherwise you will not be able to use your technical knowledge. And that would be a shame as well. You might have some people in your team who there's like, and I had it in the past when I was working for consulting companies, we had really brilliant minds in there. Really fantastic. I mean, but you could figure out these guys, and then we had others who were technically super weak, but yet in the progression they just stepped over them. Why did they step over them in career progression? Because they were just salesperson. They were fantastic in selling their own character and saying that they're the greatest in the world. It's the emotional intelligence, the communication style. And it's really like that. And that will make your life so much easier if you can talk properly to the people. And again, to all different levels, you have to be able to adjust it. But let me make you one example. It's at the end, no one likes to be checked. So Thomas, when I ask you a question, so you're driving a car. You're driving a nice car, I know that. And you're getting stopped by the police officer. Police officer comes to your window. Police officer didn't have a good day. So you were doing nothing wrong. You were within the speed limit. You didn't do any funny driving, so the police officer comes to your window. What's your first impression? Are you happy or not? Thomas, what do you think? How would you react then?
You get nervous automatically, right?
So different scenario. Now you're again stopped by the police officer. Police officer comes to your car. He's very friendly. He smiles at you. He laughs at you. What do you think? How would you react? Would you also get nervous?
Absolutely.
You see, it's just the nature of the beast. Yeah, no one likes to be checked. And that's still, the communication is still an important aspect, but you have to realize you're still an auditor. You have to try to make it as comfortable as possible as you can. And you go to someone, at the end you go to someone's living room. Because you get to see, I mean, most of us are unfortunately spending more time at work than we do at home. Maybe nowadays with the home office it changes for some of us. But you got to realize you're stepping into someone's living room. And you cannot act like a bully in someone's living room. You cannot go there, hey, I'm the auditor. What do you want to do? Change that picture, change that sofa, and so on. You got to be really up to speed with that one. And that's...
I really like your comparison with the police officer.
Exactly. But I mean, obviously, when we go in for an interview, you always say, I'm not going to be a police officer. You don't try to be it, but you have to realize you will still be perceived as a person like that. And you will face the situation. I had situations where I was with a senior member of the management. The person started crying in front of me.
Okay.
Because he was so emotional. The company was not doing well. There were some decisions from head office, and he was in one of the branches. He was so emotional, he started crying. Now, what are you going to do when you have like a 50-year-old man sitting in front of you who starts crying? That is like something then I also felt uncomfortable, frankly speaking. At the end, I calmed them down, but that's something you realize, this person's really passionate. He really thinks about he really doesn't like it.
Yeah, that's just part of our work reality, right? It doesn't happen every day, but it can happen, and we need to be aware of that.
No, luckily not.
So let's move the conversation a little bit forward, Michael. Courage and ethics are at the very heart of internal audit leadership, yet they aren't really straightforward. Based on your own experience and what you have seen among your fellow Chief Audit Executive colleagues, how do audit leaders find the strength to make and stand by difficult ethical decisions, especially when those decisions aren't popular or come with personal or organizational pressure, and in some cases could ultimately put your own role at risk?
Well, one great leader, one person that I worked with, he was really a fantastic mentor. He said once, you have to wear your Teflon suit every day. So don't take your stuff personal. It really needs to. You will be faced with a lot of arguments. Some are potentially not the nicest. Some are okay, but you don't take it personally. Don't take it in yourself. So you really have to. And it comes also with experience. So all of us will have to make some scar tissue. So all of us will make mistakes, but make the step back, learn from it, and adjust. And don't think that you are the greatest and don't make any mistakes. It's just a given. It's just learn from it. You have to realize it's a continuous journey. So how do you, about your growth, not just say, it's a continuous development. All of us put it in the audit committee slides as a continuous development. We work on this training, that training. Really, you got to do that. So you got to really look at, okay, well, what's the skills that I'm missing? And all of us, none of us is perfect. All of us are missing some skill set or not good in skill set. We can always improve ourselves. And the same is with ethics. I mean, take a step back. Do you really make ethical decisions everywhere? Or is the points that communicated to you by your team members, for example? You might have some junior team members. Some you might say, he's junior. What he's telling me, it's not worth looking into that because he probably did not get it right. That's not, you can't act like that, or you should not act like that. Because at the end, you might know. I mean, you don't know, is there truth behind it? So gotta be professional, be open-minded, ethical, look at it, what the person is saying.
Yeah.
And important, before making an potentially unpopular decision, be 1,000% sure. Do your homework. Look at the paper. Get the evidence straight. Only when you're really sure that is really the situation where we are, then you can go. I mean, I can give you some example here. I'd like a travel and entertainment related issue that I had, which is similar actually in nature. So in one team member raised an issue and about first-class flights. That one of the management booked first class, and he wrote it in the report. And I looked at it and said, okay, yeah, fine, fair, good. Then talk with management about it, get it confirmed. I didn't really look in detail in that, I have to admit. That was not good for my part of it. And oh boy, this thing blew up completely. So, because at the end, what it turned out to be, I mean, I had to go then to the manager and clarify the points with him. And at the end, what happened, it were all domestic flights in the US. And some of our listeners might know that business flights in the US, they are called first-class flights. They're not called business-class flights. Of course, for some junior members, it looks like first-class flights. And that was something you got to step back. I mean, this is a Teflon suit. It is, but with something like that, it makes you lose credibility. But then you got to step back, lessons learned, look at the documents closer, teach the team members, tell them about it. So really pay attention to the work paper review. But that was the one example where it didn't go too well. I didn't do the 1,000% checking. But another example I had, there was one EC member. What he did, he returned his business class flight internationally and changed or converted the business class ticket to 3 economy tickets from the price so that he could travel with his family. So that happened as well. And then got the documents straight, travel agency, we got all the evidence. It was rock solid. At the end, the EC member was let go, finally, because we raised it to the board, and it was obviously, was fraud at the end, what he did.
Michael, I really appreciate what you're saying because it reflects something that only comes with experience. All of us have had these moments in our career where we learn on the hard way situations we would rather not repeat, but that shape us more than any training ever could. These moments can be uncomfortable, sometimes painful, but they most certainly leave a lasting impact. I believe many of our listeners will relate to that. What matters is that we recognize the value of these experiences.
Absolutely.
They stay with us, they make us better.
Absolutely.
And the benefit extends far beyond ourselves. Your team learns from your growth, your decision-making improves, and over time, these lessons become part of the strengths you bring at the table as a leader.
Absolutely.
What advice would you give to auditors who see something wrong but fear the personal consequences of speaking up in an organization?
Before you raise it, prepare your defense, prepare the countermeasures, because there will be some more severe, some less severe, so be prepared. What kind of a question? Always you have to think 2 steps ahead, what will come. And the other one, probably the most important, don't bring it home. Keep the pressure at work and don't bring that stuff at home, because we are facing stuff of our family and they don't need to know everything. Be the change you want to see. That's basically. So if you see something, you're not happy, you want to see change, you have to start with yourself. Be the change you want to see. But and remind yourself, what is audit for? So is it audit? Is just an alibi function, just to be there and not to create any value or do anything? But then I have to say you have the wrong role. It's the wrong profession. So we are there to protect the company, its stakeholders. We have to speak up or whatnot. It's not just about compliance. You have to see, okay, it's not only about you and the other person potentially. It's about everybody who's working in the company if you find something. So you're basically protecting the whole company. So it's about integrity, it's about trust, it's about long-term value. So you got to be that. But of course, when you consider, document everything clearly, review it objectively, keep the emotions out, just really be 100% sure that what you're saying is absolutely correct. Then on the other hand, if you want to try to make it more like a risk, see, okay, what is the risk? Don't make it like a bias, like, oh, this person's doing that and that's not good because whatever. Don't say he's acting in a way it's not. Keep it on a level there. It's a risk level. And look, guys, this is the risk. This is what can happen. Done. But then but you have to be courage, and the courage will help you to grow. So you will make the decision, you raise points, and it will help you to grow. But at the end, if you're still afraid by yourself to raise points, you say, I can't do that because I have family in the back. I will lose my job. I don't have nowhere to get the income. I mean, let's face it. I mean, that situation, that thoughts might come into your mind. But at the end, if you say, I can't just raise it by myself, consider to go to other expert, whether internal expert, external, whether it's a people, a culture, or HR department, whether it's the head of compliance, or even whether it's the whistleblower hotline. I mean, there's a whistleblower hotline in audit. They can also use the whistleblower hotline. It could also happen. But just one thing you should not do, and just forget about it and put it under the carpet.
One thing I would like to add is, if you are in such situations, try to seek for a conversation with one of your peer chief audit executives to have a conversation about the situation. It's not about they telling you what to do, but very often just talking out loud your thoughts helps you personally to organize your thoughts and clarify what exactly are you seeing and shape the right way for yourself how to go forward. I went through this quite often in the past, quite a few peers coming to me having conversation about what they observed. And it was always very deep, very personal conversation of what is really dear to you and how to move forward. Not even once we came out of such a conversation with a clear plan of how this person should move forward. But at each and every single case, it gave a good basis and continue their own thought journey to come up with a solution that really suited their personal commitment to integrity and ethical behavior, and all of them did the right. That's something, never forget, you're not alone out there.
Absolutely.
Go and look to who could I talk about the situation. Just share your thoughts and very often help.
Absolutely. Agree, 100%.
So in times of uncertainties, there rarely a perfect answer, Michael. How do you approach decision-making when you are faced with incomplete information or competing pressure or simply not clear what is the right path, which is very often the case in such situations? First, you discover something and you're not even sure, okay, is that really wrong? So you kind of question yourself and you have to dig deeper. So how do you handle such situations?
Well, I could counter, is there anyway a right path? So that's so it's just, I mean, there are multiple paths. I mean,
correct.
First one, and it comes back to the skills that I said before, remain calm, remain curious, collect all the information, all the missing, identify the missing information, what is missing. Do you have a round picture? And then at the end, what I like to do is prepare different options, different scenarios. Look, and then you've got to present it to the board, to the management. Say, look, guys, this is the situation we're facing. It can be A, B, C, D, E. So from my point, of course, you'd still be able to make what from your point of view is the most strong option. And then at the end, be transparent about it. So really show what you've done, what the risks are, what is missing, where we can improve, who's involved. Don't just try to not show information. You got to be transparent about what you're doing.
Do you ever find that slowing down, even if it's just briefly, can be more powerful than rushing to act when everything else is in crisis mode?
I would say that's the way to do it. I mean, that's the way how you have to do it. Because if everybody's rushing, don't let yourself rush into a decision. Because as soon as you rush, it's getting very emotional and you're mixing a device comes into the game. You might not have the quality that you need to have and you're drawing conclusions too early. So being rushed into something can have some severe results and effects about your credibility, we might make complete wrong decisions. So you got to be like an anchor point. You got to be like, okay, guys, I'm calm. I mean, the scenarios I think about, if the head of audit starts to panic, that's most of the time the beginning of the end.
Yeah, very powerful.
So that's, don't let yourself, also for the example, don't let yourself be pushed into a specific direction. Just stay objective, look at it from the outside, and say, okay, there is a scenario, management thinks it's this way, look at it from a step back, slow down, look at it, take your time to look at the documents. Make yourself a clear head. Don't try to blend out every conversation you had before, and really look at it from more of a big picture view. Take a step back. So, okay, how does it all fit into the whole situation? Also, when you're writing reports, if you have the possibility, you write a report, take a break before sending it out. Don't click the button directly, even though you run the spell check over it, which hopefully everybody does nowadays. Sometimes I'm wondering if everybody does it still. But take a step back, and then if you have the chance, look at it a day later, or even look an hour later, reread it, and you will find that some of the points you wrote are maybe not worded in the perfect way. So again, slow down, take your time.
Couldn't agree more. Always sleep over an important document and look at it with a fresh pair of eyes the next morning before you send anything out. And you can be almost certain that there will be one or two things you would still want to adjust, things that you would have regretted sending it out the day before.
It is. And then keep in mind, if a crisis is not well escalated, it's not well managed, it can further escalate. It can become even more severe.
Trust is the invisible currency of our profession. Once lost, it's very hard to rebuild it. How have you managed to build and maintain trust with your teams, senior management and the board, especially during turbulent times? Is that even possible, Michael?
Well, you cannot. I mean, ideally, you don't build the trust in turbulent times, because building trust in turbulent times is a bit of a challenge, because people have a lot of things on their mind, and then you want to build trust. It can work. It can also be perceived actually exactly the opposite. And I look, what does the auditor now want? I mean, I have no time for it. So it's ideally you have built it up before. But at the end, it goes back to what again, sorry for just repeating myself. You got to pay attention to the feedback that's given to you. You have to conversation with management. Okay, what do they want? What is their objectives? Which direction does the company want to go? What's the strategy? And you got to put that in there into your consideration of your work. You don't have to stick to, I have to do the internal control system, I have to do this audit, I have to look at the financial statement. Look at how you can create the added value. And added value is another one of these beautiful phrases where some are using it differently. I mean, for me, creating added value is really understand where the company has to go, understand what the objectives are, understand what's the pain points, what is the risks, what does management not sleep good at night, and really try to include that in your planning, include that in your work, on how you can support the whole process. Do not act arrogant. Don't step into the rooms like, I'm here, guys. You don't build a good relationship with that if you act arrogant. Opposite then. That's not the way to do it. And be proactive, be involved. Involve yourself in it. Don't just lean back and say, I'm the big head of internal audit or chief audit executive, and I don't have to do work. Get your hands dirty. If you have the chance, go out with the team, do some audit work. Show the management and show the employees that you're also working, that you're not sitting in an ivory tower and let other people do the work. So that's something. Mm-hmm. If you want to be accepted, and if you want to build the trust, it's good if they know, okay, this is a guy, he's not just leaning, he's not just talking, he's doing.
Michael, you just mentioned that trust can really be tested, especially in moments of crisis. How do you go about realigning relationships and rebuilding that trust, both on a personal level and also with the organization as a whole?
Maybe I take one step back, because I would like to mention one thing before. You also mentioned the team, how you build trust with the team. And that's something for me, you don't stick to the hierarchy levels. So you got to be really down the same level as the team. That's the most appreciated when I was still a junior, when I would work, when I could really, had a manager or a partner or head of audit was really on the same level. We didn't act arrogant in a way. So that's just I'd like to mention. Now coming to your question, I would like to see like Warren Buffett. I mean, all of us know Warren Buffett. What he once said is like, you build up a relationship over 20 years and you can ruin it within 5 minutes. So you got to really, that's something you need to practice. You need to realize a relationship is very fast ruined. So act conscious about that. Once it is maybe not perfect anymore, self-reflect. Take a step back, look at it. Okay, how did we end up in the situation in which we ended up? So it's just the very important thing you got to really understand, and don't just blend yourself out and say, I didn't make any mistakes. You might have been the person who made a mistake. So that's something you really need to be able to accept it. And then once you step back, identify what are the lessons learned? What do I have to improve? And then adapt yourself and start the long journey again to build the trust again. And you can just use every chance and really improve on what did not go right in the past. And then really ask for proactive feedback to really make sure if we go in the right direction, guys, and be open about it. Look, I know it didn't go well. That's what I did. I know I made this mistakes. Be open about your mistakes. Be transparent. Again, okay, I looked at it. I want to do it better. Is it now going into the right direction? That you're really buying the management in. And you say, oh, no, I really, really appreciate that. Or they might say, look, it's okay, but we would like to have it more into another way. And then you try to look at it again and then try to adjust there. It's a continuous journey.
I think what you're describing is a very powerful concept. Create continuous feedback loop with your key stakeholders. Not just at the year end, but throughout the entire year. Really taking the pulse of your board, your executive committee, but also the wider organization. That is how you keep adjusting the internal audit function, sharpening its focus and making sure you are consistently adding value for your stakeholders. Mm-hmm. From my own career, I can say that this is a journey. Sometimes you lean a little bit too far into one direction and the other time you lean a little bit too far into another direction. And I think that's just normal. The important thing is that you stay conscious to observe how your counterparts react to your communications, your report, your messages, and to keep adapting how you show up as an internal audit function. Mm-hmm. I think there's also one more point. Every organization is just different and every leadership team is different. So there is no one-size-fits-all model for how internal audit creates value. You have to keep observing who you are dealing with, what they need, what matters to them, and what they perceive as value from the internal audit function. That clearly doesn't appear overnight. It's a continuous journey of learning, listening, and adjusting, and that's something that never really ends.
Correct.
So the world of audit and governance is changing fast. New technologies and new risks and expectations are evolving continuously. What do you believe will be the most critical skills for the next generation of head of internal audits to thrive in this evolving landscape?
It's difficult to predict fully, to be perfectly honest, but I would say you certainly have to get accustomed with artificial intelligence. You need to really be open. You try to integrate it in your work. And a lot of people are saying that. Not many are doing it yet. Will it be tomorrow? Will it be the day after? I don't know. No one knows when it will really, but I think it's there to stay. I don't think it will leave. And it can create fantastic added value. I started using it also by myself, and I have to say it makes life significantly easier at times. You have to treat it with care. And but one aspect, of course, beside artificial intelligence, and sorry for coming back, it's again also how you're acting, really the personal skills. Because at the end, there's still a person behind AI somewhere. So still a user of AI. We're still there yet. I mean, that's still what you have. So you got to be shaped of the skill set there as well. So that's something for me. You got to be open for change and be prepared to adopt. That's something. It's so changing, fast changing, and out there nowadays.
And for those listening who want to future-proof their careers, what practical steps can they take today to start building those skills?
It's difficult to prove careers, frankly speaking, because as I said, it's maybe the persons before us said the same, because they didn't know before computer was different. Now they came the computer, then came the internet, and now we was AI. So it's very difficult how to say, what do you have to do to prove? I mean, there will be like the artificial intelligence, the neuroscience, and so on and so on. To which extent will it come? When will it come? I mean, think about it. 20 years ago, we thought in 2020 we would all be flying around with spaceships. I mean, we're far away from that yet. I mean, sometimes even the internet doesn't work stable. So it's difficult to say how fast that will really come. Basically, you got to remain open to new ways. You got to be flexible. You have to be able to adopt. You got to really quick. If there's a new trend, you have to jump on it and try to predict. It certainly goes more into IT, into analytical point of view. Mass data, that is certainly an aspect I would say that's very important that you understand this. And how, because it's a very powerful tool, you got to be able to utilize data which are there. As for governance perspective, I think there's more governance aspect that will come into with the AI aspects. That's something you also certainly have to adapt it, and you have to be able to. I mean, you got to accept the traditional patterns might not be there anymore. So it's fast changing out there. It's really, you're waking up tomorrow, it might be a completely different scenario than what it was today. That's something, again, I can just repeat, strengthen your AI skill set, strengthen your emotional intelligence aspects, and that's something you can do, basically.
So, Michael, you have seen a lot and clearly learned a lot along the way. Looking back, what's one lesson you wish you had learned earlier in your career?
Listen deeply. Listen very deeply and asking the right questions. I mean, just don't. I mean, sometimes we're sitting in meetings, we're pretending that we're listening, but we're not listening. So really listen deeply to the person opposite you and then really ask the right questions about something. Be prepared for the meetings. Don't just walk into meetings without knowing who you're talking with or what you want to talk about. So that's something. I mean, and over time you just realize it's, in our business, it's a lot about technical, but it's a lot also about empathy, about curiosity, about empowering others. If you have the chance, really start growing the others. I mean, with others, not even only mean your team, but also the others in the organization. Be a role model. Be really not just talk about it, but really act like the role model. And at times, slow down. What we talked about earlier. Slow down, take a step back, look at it from a helicopter view, and just see if that's the best way to go forward. And if not, don't stick to an idea where you say, okay, where you don't feel where in your guts you feel it's not the perfect. Just trust your beliefs, scrap it and redo it. And it's sometimes painful, but most of the times it pays off, from my point of view. And the focus should always be create value, create an added value. I mean, realize for yourself on how you want to create an added value.
Michael, thank you so much for this truly eye-opening conversation. You have reminded us that courage in leadership isn't about heroics. It's about consistency, clarity, and integrity, especially when no one is watching. Before we wrap up, what's the one piece of advice you would like to leave with our listeners who may be leading their teams through their own dark times as we talk?
Remain calm, remain positive, and then keep in mind also it's not the end, it's not the beginning of the end, but it's the end of the beginning. So just really focus on, or look at it. In dark times, there's the potential to grow. There's opportunities for you to grow. Just really treasure. You will not realize that during that situation most of the times, because at that time you will have other things in mind. Let's face that. But take a step back afterwards. Listen from or learn from what just happened, and you will grow personally as well as from your skill set. So don't question yourself, but stick to your values, and don't get pushed into a direction.
Michael, thank you again for joining us today. It was extremely interesting to listen to you and to learn from you.
Thomas, thanks a lot for the invitation again. It was really I really enjoyed talking with you and sharing my thoughts and experience. And I hope that some of the colleagues will use the lessons or can apply what I just said. I mean, at the end, it's all personal point of view. Appreciate it, and thanks for the invitation. And maybe in the future we meet each other again.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, leave a rating, and share it with your colleagues and friends. You also can find more episodes on keystone-governance.ch or follow me on LinkedIn for future updates. And as always, let's build smarter, more resilient organizations, one conversation at a time.